TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, delivers everything you've come to expect and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Just visit MLB.tv for details. Mike Leake, the Hyundai pitch arsenal. We've seen a lot of fly balls early on. He'd love to change that. Ground balls here this afternoon. That's a look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal. This is a look at the USS Midway here in San Diego. A day in which we honor our military. Cardinals and Padres coming up in game number 3. By Budweiser, this Bud's for you. By Chevrolet, visit your local Mid-America Chevy dealer for great prices on the all-new 2016 Malibu. And by Menards, save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. The famous Tony Gwynn statue beyond the wall in right center field, Mr. Padre. How hard would it be to be a weather person out here? Yep, all right, 66 to 72 degrees. It's going to be beautiful. And you say that every day. And that's what we have here, along with Jim Hayes, Jim Edmonds. I'm Dan McLaughlin. A beautiful afternoon for baseball and the rubber game between the Padres and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals 9-8 this year. San Diego is 7-11. Matt Carpenter back in the starting lineup. He'll play third base. He'll lead it off. Then Stephen Piscotty, 3 for 5 with a home run and a double in Game 2. Brandon Moss, Randall Grichuk, Yadier Molina, Jeremy Hazelbaker, the huge pinch hit home run last night. Jed Jerko also with a 3-run shot. Aledmus Diaz was 5 for 5. And the pitcher, Mike Leake, looking for his first hit and first win of the year. This is Colin Ray, a 12th round selection in 2011. 4th start of the season. Last time out, went 5 innings, gave up 3 runs and a win against Pittsburgh. And he gets the call today. Andy Green, a look at his defense, presented by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Melvin Upton Jr. in left. John Jay in center. Matt Kemp is in right. Brett Wallace, Alexi Ramirez, Jamile Weeks, Will Myers along the infield. Christian Bethencourt is behind the plate. The umpires are on the scene. Sean Barber will call the balls and strikes. Jordan Baker at first. Crew chief is Mike Everett at second. Tim Timmons down at third. You know, Jimmy, with all the offense that the Cardinals had last night, And there was a bunch. And the home runs. I thought the key moment, the key play in the game, and it really gets overlooked, was the pinch hit, 0-2 hit by Carpenter to tie the game up. At that time, it was 2-2.
It definitely, I thought, was a big moment, like you said. Also, it was just a tough at bat for him, and he needed it. And we talked about last night, obviously off a lefty especially, but seemed to get everybody going. And sometimes when you're struggling as a veteran and get a big hit like that, you boost the team, because those guys in there in the dugout are pulling for him as much as he's, trying to get hits, and so the whole team feels it.
2 balls and no strikes. Holiday not in the starting lineup today. He'll be on the bench. The Cardinals with 3 on the right side. A good firepower coming off this bench. Holiday, Tejada, and Fryer. Then on the left side, Wong and Adams. The Cardinals now with 7 pinch hit home runs this year. The 3-0 pitch is taken for a strike. Matt is batting .226. Couple of home runs. He has driven in 12. The 3-1. And it's a leadoff walk. 11th walk that Carpenter has received this year. And we look at the Hyundai pitch arsenal. They say his fastball is up a tick or two this year. He'll be around 92, 94. And he put on 20 pounds in this offseason.
It's pretty impressive. Put on 20 pounds at any point in time in your life, let alone over the offseason. But, that's part growing up. You get a little bit older, that weight comes on. He is 25 now, so turning into a man, so to speak.
Stephen Piscotty. You mentioned this to me the other day. You used to love coming to your home state, California, and the cool air, especially in the second half of a season, but it kind of re-energizes you. You play in front of family and friends. And Piscotty in 8 career games here in the Golden State, 3 home runs, average close to 450.
There you go. See, he's probably agreeing with me.
Yep.
It's nice. It really is. I mean, it was different before. I think almost the schedule has been flipped. So we come out here now and they come back in later half of the season. But it was sometimes it's a long, grueling season, and halfway through you get to go home. LA, San Diego, even San Francisco was at the end of the year. It was just a nice lift for me emotionally, and kind of charged me back up for the rest of the season.
And also in the second half of the year, after those hot days at Busch Stadium, we're playing in the Central Division. Chicago gets hot, Cincinnati. You think about coming here on those cool summer nights on the West Coast. The 0-2 pitch to Piscotty. Check swing. And he went. Strikeout to Steven. First strikeout for Colin Ray. You look at his numbers, that's his 17th strikeout of the year, to go along with now 9 walks. So he's been walking a bunch, but striking out his fair share too. With 1 out, 1 on, here's Brandon Moss. Gets the call today at first base. Starting pitching of San Diego has really picked it up after a slow start. Last 5, the ERA is about 2.5, and they've won 3 of the 5 games. The shift on here for Moss on the right side of the infield.
Good little sneaky fastball. Looks like it's kind of jumping out of his hand. Pretty flat as far as being straight, but definitely got a little life on it.
1 ball, 1 strike on Brandon Moss. Outfield is deep. And a ground ball that's hit to first. They'll get the lead man out there, back to first, and safe. Being a former first baseman, which you did, that play a little bit easier for a left-handed throwing first baseman going across the diamond, or in this case to second base, but these are always tough.
Yeah, a lot easier being left-handed, basically just catching the ball and throwing across your body. There sometimes as a right-hander, I've noticed guys sometimes don't know if they want to spin around or if they want to just kind of turn and try to throw. Hopefully the ball will dictate what you really want to do with it, so your mind doesn't have to worry too much about it. Right there, it kind of gave him a chance to spin, but It's got to be a tough play. I know it was one of the things that Matt Holliday was working on in spring training was which way to turn and when. And like I said, hopefully the ball will help you, but when it's right at you, sometimes your feet kind of go a little faster than your mind.
Now Grichuk, 1 ball, no strikes. Hit a long home run in game 1, measured at 434 feet. 2 outs and the runner at first is Brandon Moss. Grichuk this year hitting .192, slow start in that regard, 3 home runs, and he has driven in 8. Well, John Jay knows his former teammate pretty well. He's playing about as deep as you can here at this ballpark.
Again, shading him over into right center field. Yeah, he is pretty deep out there.
That's as deep as I've seen someone play at this ballpark. And the ball scoots away. Moss advances to second. So the Cardinals have their first man in scoring position. Been a tough go for the catchers thus far of the Padres, both defensively and offensively. Both are hitting well under 200. Derek Norris has made the starts in the first 2 games of this series, and for Betancourt, it's just his 5th start of 2016. Base hit out to left. They'll wave in Moss. Will have a play at the plate. The throw is offline, and Moss will score easily. 1-0 Cardinals.
Isn't it amazing up here? You think the ball's hit so hard. Moss is running right to the left fielder. Sometimes you just have to take the chance. It blows me away how many throws are offline when a guy's trying to score. I mean, it's not easy, but that is definitely why you take the chance and send guys when, I mean, the ball's right to him, makes a good strong throw, but because it's up the line 4 or 5 feet, doesn't even have to slide, safe at home.
Right when he touched the bag there is when Melvin Upton Jr. had the ball. He had all kinds of chances to get him.
From my angle up here, I thought he was going to be out for sure.
Me too.
As soon as he let go of the ball, you could kind of see that it's offline.
So the base hit by Randal Grichuk is 9th driven in this year, and it brings in Yadier Molina. And Yadi has a modest 5-game hitting streak. And Jay again very deep in center. And for my money, with Yadi up too deep.
That's unusual. He's that deep. I don't know if that's something that they wanted him to do today. Maybe it's warmer.
Yep.
Ball is definitely going to carry a little bit more today than it did the last 2 nights.
We've talked about it a lot. He used to play so shallow in center field to take hits away.
Here's a good angle right here. You see, as soon as it comes out of his hand, ball just kind of cuts. No chance to get the runner. Why you take chances?
Here's an 0-1 pitch to Yadier Molina. When you worked with John Jay spring training, did you guys talk about positioning in terms of why you played in and why you thought that was a factor in your game to get 8 Gold Gloves?
Yeah, you know what I really liked about John too is he did some of the things that I did. He watches the catcher's signs. He kind of knows what his pitcher wants to do. He knows the hitters. He's moving his outfielders with him. That's something that's really important to keep your right fielder and your left fielder in the loop, because I saw last year having an awful accident when 2 guys run into each other. That's so dangerous, and you can prevent that by just having a little communication.
Runner goes at Grichuk, throw into center field. Randal stays put at second. Gets the stolen base, his 2nd this year, and picked a good pitch to do it with the breaking ball.
Good jump. Again, a look back, kind of just to see what's going on. We talked about that last night with Piscotty, but I think sometimes guys just look back because they want to know where the ball's at.
Just to have an idea, comfort level with it.
And guys that don't run a lot, it's uncomfortable, and you kind of, I think you do want to know where the ball's going and see if you may have to make a little bit of a hook slide.
2-2 on Yadier Molina. He has been the Cardinals' best in this spot. Runners in scoring position. He is 7 for 14 this year. talk so much about Grichuk's power, but he's got good speed too. He could be a 15 to 20 stolen base kind of guy. But the key is you got to get on base.
Yeah, but you know what's funny to me is, it's funny you say that, is I can really see his speed and his burst when he's in the outfield. It's hard to tell sometimes, you know. It takes so much to see it when you're on base, because if you don't get a couple, go a couple days without hits, or you don't really run or steal, and you don't get to go first and third that often. So you see it in the outfield a little bit more.
Molina fights it off. With runners in scoring position, 2 strikes, Molina 5th in baseball. Early in the season, small sample size, but 355. And to even further that point with the full count, 3 for 7. "3-2 pitch to Yadier Molina." That's what he does so well.
So good.
You know, that's a ball that he doesn't want to drive clearly, but just stays alive and stays in the at bat. "3-2 pitch, a base hit out to left. Here comes Grichuk. Here comes Melvin Upton Jr. The throw again is offline. Grichuk scores, and it's 2-0 Cardinals. Almost the identical play with the base hit by Grichuk to score Brandon Moss.
And Upton's upset too. You can tell when he threw that ball, as soon as he let go of it, he knew it was offline, and he snapped his head around. But look, exactly the same throw. He just maybe cutting it off a little bit and trying to do too much. You know what's funny? When I had trouble throwing, as you see Grichuk running around here, gets in nice and easy, and I had trouble throwing the ball sometimes, I would literally walk up and straight to Dave Duncan, and I would say, "What am I doing wrong?"
Is that right?
And he would say, "Oh, it looks like you're not getting closed up," or, "Oh, you're throwing, your shoulders aren't getting square." And who better to ask? I mean, right there, I would be furious. And so, you know, it's eating him up a little bit. He had 2 guys dead to rights. Should have thrown them both out, but like I said, the game's not that easy.
And here is Jeremy Hazelbaker, the pinch hit home run. That was against Carlos Villanueva, 3-run shot that made it 5-2 yesterday, and looks at a breaking ball. How about this? Hazelbaker barely made the club out of spring. He now has 4 home runs. The Braves as a team have a total of 3. It's a great story. And the Cardinals have taken advantage of miscues defensively here by the Padres. You had the pass ball that put Moss into scoring position. 2 throws offline from the left fielder. Stolen base by Grichuk. And it adds up to a 2-run lead here in the first.
I got a chance to sit down and talk to Jeremy for a couple minutes today. Not even a couple minutes, probably a minute, but just said, "Hey, that home run, you know, make everything better." And he says, "Yeah, it's amazing what a home run can do for you when you're in a slump." And I told him, I said, "It looked like you found something in that one little bit of an at bat." And it was just like, yeah, I got a little bit more comfortable and stayed on the ball a little bit longer. And so far it looks like he's back in that nice little rocking chair, as they say, McGuire used to say, and kind of just balance at the plate. But what a way to get out of a slump, huh?
0 for 17 at that time, and then hits the 3-run blast.
Big home run.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Molina thought about running. Let's go back to the throw with Melvin Upton Jr. See if you pick up something.
You see, he's in great position. I think sometimes when you just overthrow, you can see how good of an arm he has, and ball carries all the way to the plate. I think sometimes when you just overthrow a little bit, you either cut it off or you let it go a little early. It's
Hazelbaker with a shot into center field, but right at John Jay. The Cardinals pick up a couple of runs, both RBIs with 2 outs. after a half inning. 2-0 St. Louis. Andy Green played in the major leagues, then was a bench coach in Arizona. Now the head man in San Diego. John Jay leads it off, followed by Will Myers and Matt Kemp. Melvin Upton Jr. bats cleanup. Brett Wallace, Alexi Ramirez, Jemile Weeks, Christian Bethancourt, and Colin Ray. Let's see if a little home cooking is what Mike Leake needs. And we're talking about a guy that was raised in this area, went to high school, a place that's 52 miles north of where we're at today, Petco Park. And the first pitch is taken for a ball. Went to Fallbrook Union High School. All time against the Padres, 1-2 with an ERA of 3. As John Jay hits that out of play, he's riding a 6-game hitting streak coming into this action. And to start the year, he had an 8-game hitting streak.
Talking about Mike coming home, that's got to be so nice to be in the area you grow up. Nice day. Hasn't won a game yet. Great opportunity to show Cardinal fans, his teammates, and his hometown what he's capable of doing. Plus he got a nice early lead.
And a fly ball lifted into shallow center. One away. Dobbs Tire Auto Centers. Around the horn. Behind Leake, Hazelbaker, Grichuk, and Piscotty. Carpenter, Diaz, Jerko, and Moss. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate. The Cardinals have 17 errors this year, tied with the Reds for the most in baseball. As you get a look at Will Myers, and you think about the losses for the Cardinals, they have not been blown out of games. It's been a play that's not been made here or there that's cost them a run or two, and then ultimately cost them a game. It's this level, that fine line of making plays.
Yep, it's amazing that, like you said, that one play can cost you an entire game.
We were talking about Jose Oquendo the other day, and I'm curious what you think. With Jose not being here, the factor of a coach that is so good with his infielders, and the errors have been made on the infield primarily, if that's been as big a factor as maybe we are led to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't read too much into that too, but it's also coming out of spring training, playing on a certain turf every day. You kind of get comfortable, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're forced into traveling on the road, different stadiums. Get in a stadium like this where the ball's going to be faster in the infield. You know, cold in Pittsburgh. It's a lot of different things play into it, but definitely not what we're used to seeing out of the St. Louis Cardinals for sure.
Will Myers, the best in baseball with 2 strikes, with 12 hits with 2 strike counts. 3-2 here. He has an 8-game hitting streak on the line. Just missed on the outside corner. Brings in Matt Kemp. Batting .258, leads their club in home runs and RBIs with 5 and 13. Well, when Mike Leake is right, you see a lot of ground balls, and you think about the double play. He is a tremendous ground ball pitcher.
I like what I see, though. Command a little bit of breaking ball, moving the ball around. I think right there is really trying to make sure that he didn't give Will Myers anything to hit because he's been so hot. So pitched him in a little bit. See what he has to work with here.
Kemp has had his issues against Mike Leake, just 2 for 12 with 5 strikeouts. Of those active pitchers with 1,000 or more innings, Mike Leake one of 6 coming into play this year who get over 50% of ground balls.
And that's his game. That's when you know he's on. I think you just watch early on to see if he's hitting the glove, and I think the ground balls will take care of themselves.
That's hit out of play.
He keeps hitting his spots. You know, you talked about it in spring training about Yachty having a new toy.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it is true, but that's what you can just sit back and watch on TV is he throwing the ball in the area that Yachty wants it? If he starts doing that, he's going to find a groove. Eventually the wins will just start piling up.
We talked to Yachty the other day, and he was saying Mike Leake is so much fun to catch because of the different weapons he possesses, different speeds, how you want to approach the various hitters. And a fly ball lifted into right center. Calling for it, Piscotty makes the catch. Yachty also saying, even though he had faced him a bunch, he felt that Leake is a lot better than he ever imagined. He said he's always been good. He said, but he's better than I thought. So 2 outs, and it brings in Melvin Upton Jr. Now in his 12th major league season, former number 2 overall pick with Tampa Bay. Popped up to the right side. Jerko giving chase into shallow right and makes the catch. Nice play, Jed Jerko. Second inning rolls in when we come back. Cardinals on top. Coach for the Padres. 583 home runs for Big Mac. And today, Albert Pujols ties Reggie Jackson at 563. Up next, only 6 away, Rafael Palmeiro, then Harmon Killebrew, the Hall of Famer. And Jed Jerko lines it into left field for a base hit. Speaking of home runs, Jerko with a home run last night. 5th place all-time in Petco Park history. Missouri Lottery Fox Tracks, pitch up and away, and he hammered it.
So he's trying to get the ball down, and just it's so funny when you see that Fox Tracks all the time, and it's just like that ball's not even a glove above where he wanted it, and it just gets hammered.
One of the big stories here early on, Aledmys Diaz. He's hitting .522 in his last 8 games, .467 overall. They can't get him out in this series. 5 for 5 last night. He did have a pinch hit base hit in game 1. Last Cardinals rookie to go 5 for 5 was Wally Moon back in 1954.
That was about when you started doing these games, wasn't it?
Well, when I work with you, it feels like that. I was 23 when I started.
That's amazing.
I was getting yelled at by guys like you and Big Mac.
That can't be fun. Worst part of the job.
You walk into the clubhouse and you see Scott Rowland and Jim Edmonds and Tino Martinez and Mike Matheny and all these veterans, and you're 23 years old and you're thinking, what am I doing here? Always treated me well. You know, we were talking about McGuire. I asked you before the game, I said, is it shocking to see him as a coach? I know my own opinion is yes, and you felt the same way.
Yeah, I was surprised that when he first came back, I was surprised to see how long it would last. And he enjoys it.
These guys put in, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but they put in long hours. You know, for 7 o'clock game, many of them are here by 10:30,
yeah,
11, noon.
The latest one.
Yeah. Well, the next step for him would be manager. You know, bench coach. You go to then being a manager.
I think he'll get his opportunity soon.
I do too.
But I also think that he's not going to go too far from home. So it was kind of nice. He started in St. Louis where he was comfortable, and then LA close to home, and now San Diego still close to home. I would be very surprised that if he took a manager job somewhere far away. But then you never know. You got to get your first shot somewhere.
3-2, runner goes, and it's tapped foul. Cardinals very aggressive so far early in this game. Kia in the driver's seat. The highest April average by a Cardinals rookie since 1930. The all-time record back when you played was Showboat Fisher.
Here we go. Where's Hayes when we need him? Need someone to pick on.
3-2 pitch, runner goes, hit up the middle. Tough play. And the throw is wide. Runner advances to third. That's Jed Jerko. And now Diaz is 7 for 7 in the series.
It's not bad.
Wow. Really tough play here for Jamal Weeks. Kind of hesitated, trying to do the Derek Jeter leap and throw.
Looked like he didn't have the ball in his hand. And
yeah.
See the throw. Looked like it came out of his fingertips. But I think if he gets rid of that ball the first time and gets a good grip, I think he's got a shot. But everybody hustling down the line.
Well, you have a very good hitting pitcher in Mike Leake. He is 0 for 5, though, to start the year. Popped out. Going out on the outfield grass to make the catch is Weeks. So the first man retired, and it brings in Carpenter. There's just certain guys, Jim, that have a knack for coming through with runners in scoring position. I think Holiday would be one, and here's another in Matt Carpenter. He's just got a knack of bringing these runners home.
He's got such a great plan and such a great idea. He stays on the ball and waits and waits and waits till he gets his pitch. The other thing too, when you get runners in scoring position, a lot of times the pitcher will go to his best pitch, probably a slider, a breaking ball. And the reason why a couple years ago the Cardinals were so successful, and the reason why a guy like Matt Carpenter is so successful, is because he can hit the off-speed pitches. He's so under control in the box, and you know, like I said, they go to that pitch right away. You know it, you stay back, and you try to drive that pitch. And a couple years ago, talked about it on the pre and post game. The Cardinals are so successful about driving runners in with 2 outs in scoring position, because all the guys that were in the lineup could hit a breaking ball.
There's a check swing and a strike on Carpenter, so it is no balls and 2 strikes. Carpenter, first time up, he walked. Runners at first and third with 1 out. No balls, 2 strikes on Carpenter. One and 2 the count. And the next 2, the Cardinal leadoff man. Runner goes from first, swung on and missed, throw down to second, and save. Diaz just got in there. Andy Green telling the umpire crew to hold on to make sure that they're not going to be out of the inning.
I think he's safe.
Andy Green is like us. He's not even looking back at the phone to figure out what his video crew is doing. He just looks up at the big board.
This scoreboard has got me mesmerized. I keep looking at it, then I have to look back to see what I'm supposed to be doing. Here you get a good look at the slide, but this is really close. He probably didn't want to challenge that. It might have taken 10-15 minutes. It's too close.
Remember, it has to be evidence that clearly can overturn the call on the field. And that would be very tough.
Right there. Yeah, that one would have been hard.
So runners at second and third for Stephen Piscotty. Little check swing and a ground ball to first, and Myers will step on the bag. And the threat is through, so Colin Ray gets out of the jam unscathed. Midway through 2-0 St. Louis. For Aledmys Diaz, and let's check in with Jim Hayes. Jimmy.
5 for 5 last night. A hit today. He's batting .478. .478. As Mike Matheny, if anything Diaz is doing has taken him by surprise. He said a couple of things. Number one, he said he knew Diaz could drive the ball, but he says you can't see the way the ball jumps off his bat until you see it in person for an extended period. He said the ball really jumps. Number two, he says Diaz has great vision. He sees the ball better than a lot of players, which helps with pitch recognition and what pitches to lay off. Matheny says he thinks, quote, there's still more in there in terms of Diaz and his total game. Part of that, Mike says, is getting more consistent defensively. But Dan, obviously they love the production that Diaz is providing in the number 8 slot.
It's incredible. 7 hits in the series for a guy that wasn't supposed to be on the club. On the inside corner, and a strikeout of Brett Wallace in the first of the afternoon for Mike Leake. Calling all bobblehead collectors. Trevor Rosenthal is ready to join your collection. Saturday, April 30th, 30,000 fans ages 16 and older take home the closer's bobblehead featuring a sound chip courtesy of the Hartford. Visit Cardinals.com/promotions for tickets. Get an up-close look that weekend of Bryce Harper. What a player he is. As a guy that played a decade and a half in the big leagues, would he rub you the wrong way? Some of the way, the way he goes about his business.
You know what? I don't think so.
Just a great player.
Yeah, and you know what? He's consistent. He was phony or he was, waving towels around and doing things. He's just a really good player with a good personality and likes to have fun. But he keeps backing it up too, which is amazing. I mean, it's interesting to watch him play because he doesn't slow down at all. He's full throttle.
Bryce Harper did not start today, then pinch hit down 4-3 in the ninth and had a home run.
Pitch right there.
It was off of Kevin Jepson. Washington, led by Dusty Baker, off to a very good start. Jamal Weeks, a slow start after a tremendous spring. Got a invite, signed a minor league deal, made the club, hit .340 this spring. Led an average, RBIs and runs scored for the Padres. And he laces that into right field. Cut off by Piscotty. And runners at the corners for Christian Bethancourt. So back-to-back hits. And a chance here for the Padres.
See, right here is probably one of the few times today he's really missed his location. Trying to go down and away and crossfired it over there. Got it up and in. And how many times do you think we can say if you leave it up, it's going to get smashed? And it does.
Talked a lot about that with Wainwright the other day.
Ball gets up in the zone. It's getting hammered at this level. And talking about Adam trying to get the ball down and talked to him a little bit today about that. He said it's just something that he just hasn't really gotten the feel back yet and missing so much time. So he said he's getting close. I can't wait to see when he gets everything back together.
Bethancourt, along with Derek Norris, the catching combo, hitting a combined 157. Christian hitting 188. This is where Mike Leake needs that double play, that ground ball. When do you get comfortable with the new team? And that's something I'm sure Mike Leake is dealing with right now. You go through spring training, still trying to get that first win of the year, which I'm sure would relax him a little bit.
Being comfortable is one thing. Getting wins and contributing is a whole nother ball game. Guys are great in the clubhouse, get along, they welcome him right in. But in your own head, you still want to have wins and contribute to the team's success. And if it doesn't matter how much fun you have inside that locker room, you're not getting the wins and not doing what you're capable of doing out there on the field, and it's a little uneasy, and it's all in your own head.
The pitcher is on deck. This is the 8th place hitter. The 0-2. The fly ball lifted out to right. Piscotty, a big arm. He'll be tested. The throw from Steven to the plate. The tag not there. Little bit offline. Alexei Ramirez scores the first run for San Diego. Cuts into the lead. It's now 2-1.
Just another throw. Got himself in good position and just didn't throw the ball where he wanted to throw it. You can see right here, kind of just runs away from him. Ball tails. Sometimes you don't have the grip. Sometimes you don't have the seams. Ideally, obviously, you want to grab the ball all four seams and throw it over the top. But sometimes you rush so much, if you don't catch it just right, it's going to take off no matter how you throw it. And catch a seam and run away, and runs up the line like that.
Here's Colin Ray. The pitcher is 0 for 4 with a walk to start his year. Runner at first is Jamal Weeks. Ray is from Cascade, Iowa, one of 5 active major leaguers that hail from the state of Iowa. Michael Wacha was born there, raised in Texas. Jeremy Hellickson, Tony Watson, the outstanding lefty of the Pirates, and Scott Schebler, the rookie for Cincinnati.
Can you talk about Iowa and not think of Cal Eldred?
Miss him, don't you?
Thought he was going to be the governor, the mayor, the works.
His son is playing at, I want to say, Indiana. Living on a farm in Iowa. Now working for Kansas City. Very shallow and right, Stephen Piscotty. And a swing and a miss and a strikeout. 2 strikeouts from Mike Leake in the inning, 2 in the game. Padres get on the board, and it's 2-1. Talking about Stephen Piscotty and trying to get the proper grip of the baseball. Not sure he got it on that throw.
No, I don't think, watching the replay, that he got it. You see right here, he goes into his glove, and it's got to be automatic. You don't have a whole lot of time to get the fingers right, but you can see right when he lets it go, you can kind of see that there's not 4 seams in his fingers, and that will cause it, as it's spinning right there, you can see it's kind of cross spinning. That will cause that ball to just run and run and run. And the farther you throw it, the more it's going to run. It's amazing. It's like you could shoot a baseball out of a gun, out of a machine. If it's back spinning with 4 seams, it goes straight as an arrow. And if you put it into the same machine the very next pitch, the very next time, with the 2 seams, it could go anywhere. And it could end up 10 feet. It could end up 20 feet away from the other ball. that you threw in there with four seams. So it's very important when you have to throw the ball across the field to get those four seams.
Brandon Moss against the shift. Long way to go here for Ramirez. Sliding. No, he didn't even have to slide, and he makes a tremendous catch, and it's stuck in the webbing. What a play by Alexi Ramirez. He was the only man on the left side of the infield.
That's a heck of a play without a slide right there.
Sure is.
It looked like he was about to go down, and then the ball was just there. Him running all the way over there. He doesn't have to make that play very often, being a shortstop. All these shifts make it very interesting to keep a scorecard. We had a what was it, a weird force out. You got the
Brett Wallace, who was on the right side of the infield, the third baseman.
You have a 5-6 put out.
Yep.
And then you have a foul pop up to the shortstop.
What we are seeing too is that third baseman before games are taking throws as if they have to turn the double play, something they've never had to do before at second base. The one guy I felt could handle that easily, I always looked at him as a guy that could play shortstop, was Scott Rowland.
Yeah, I figured you were going to say his name.
He was
big,
incredible.
but such a great athlete.
Oh.
We were talking about Ramirez's arm the other day, and it reminded me a little bit. I don't think Scott Rowland's arm is as strong as Ramirez, but every time he threw the ball across the diamond, he threw it almost as hard as he could, just to know what that feel was every time.
Bethencourt near the screen and puts it away. Grichuk is 1 for 2. While Major League Baseball's global reach seems to be greater than ever, for now, Cuba remains one country that's outside its reach. Watch our special documentary, Cuba Baseball's Final Frontier, tomorrow 7:30 before the Cardinals take on the Arizona Diamondbacks right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Zach Greinke will go tomorrow for Arizona, and will reunite with our buddy Tony La Russa. Here's Yadier Molina. Strike at the knees. Molina, a 2-out RBI, base hit to left. He now has driven in 9 this year. No balls and 2 strikes. The Cardinals saw Colin Ray, his 3rd career start, first ever against the Cardinals last year. Allowed 4 earned in the first inning, was knocked out early in that game as Molina sends it back to the screen.
You see Yadi take those 2 first pitches. Pretty quick inning. Yadi's got to be the guy that has to go up there and take pitches to give his pitcher a little bit more time. When you get in that situation, you're almost hoping he throws you a couple balls. The last thing you want to do is be 0-2.
Now 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And 0-2 because you're doing the right thing, you know. And you're the one that has to take the abuse, basically, and stand up there and take strikes just so you're buying a little extra time.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to Molina. In the dirt, 2-2. Cardinals scored 11 runs last night after scoring 11 total in the previous 5 games. And as Jim mentioned, majority of the runs were scored late. The 2-2 inside. Hazelbaker on deck. 2 outs, nobody on, and a full count on Yadier Molina. Big gap in left center. And Yadi draws the walk. Second walk issued from Colin Ray. Kubota power stats on Jeremy Hazelbaker, now with 4 home runs. Moss with 4 players tied at 3. 7 pinch hit home runs hit by the Cardinals, Jimmy. And the all-time record for a season in Cardinals history was 10 back in 1998. 14 all-time record set by the Diamondbacks and Giants in the early 2000s. It's incredible. Point of emphasis by John Mozeliak, we need to improve the bench. Well, I'd say they've done that.
I think we were actually even talking about the home runs in spring training and wondering where they were going to come from.
Right.
Just never know.
Spring training, you know, Barry Bonds was talking about this. First-year batting coach with Miami. He said to him, that ballpark in Jupiter is the hardest offensive park he's seen because of the wind. The batter's eye is not great.
It is a tough place to play, I think, and or tough place to hit spring training. Mostly because of the wind, especially if you're left-handed. You can't hit the ball in the air at all. You're getting nothing to show for it.
Ground ball that's hit to second base. Hazelbaker is 0 for 2. Cardinals strand a runner. They've left 4 on. We're midway through 3, 2-1 St. Louis. Cardinals baseball is brought to you by Ford, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. And get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. Gorgeous day here in San Diego. The top of the lineup for the Padres. Ruben Tejada taking some extra BP. I guess that's one way to do it. Sunflower seeds. Mike Leake back to work. It'll be Jay, Myers, and Kemp. Jay fly to shallow center first time up. We talked about it before, how this was kind of the perfect marriage for both the Cardinals and Mike Leake. Many believed he was headed to the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's tapped foul. Diamondbacks signed Zach Greinke, and still they thought they'd be able to get Mike Leake, and then they made the trade for Shelby Miller. Cardinals went hard after David Price, fell short. So an opening for both, and Mike signs 5 years, $80 million. Ground ball that's tapped foul. He was the 8th overall pick back in 2009. Went straight out of Arizona State to the major leagues. Had 40 wins in 3 years at ASU. And why the Arizona Diamondbacks? Well, his parents are living there, Chris and Sarah, and Chris fell off a roof in August trying to build a home. That tails back in for a strike. Jay gave up on it. And with that, he's been confined to a wheelchair, so wanted to be closer to his dad, but it has worked out here with St. Louis. That was Greg Maddux like right there.
2 in a row. Didn't get it the first time, so he went back after it. As a hitter, you don't expect to see it 2 times in a row. Froze John right there. Good pitch.
That was the pitch that, as a left-handed hitter, Greg Maddux would get guys just to freeze, give up on. coming at their hip, and then all of a sudden, whoop, right in the strike zone.
So much movement on that ball for him. It's unlike anything you've ever seen, and it is hard to swing the bat when you think you're getting hit.
Yeah.
You could even look for it and couldn't pull the trigger.
Has Will Myers impressed you in this series?
Yes, he has. I definitely would not throw him anything hard out over the plate. Big kid, good swing, nice and strong. I like what Mike Leake's doing here. He's been moving the ball in and out, back and forth. And when you're sitting in the Padres dugout, you know you got your work cut out for you, and you just can't go up there being, ready to hit anything. It's just, you don't know what you're going to get. And be a little more patient.
Myers, the former American League Rookie of the Year when he was with Tampa Bay, started with Kansas City in their organization, then was traded the James Shields deal, and then as the Padres were loading up with bats, he was one of the guys that they picked up prior to last season. You're a former teammate of Mike Leake's in Cincinnati. There's James Shields. Mike's a good guy, quiet, good sense of humor,
hard-working.
Yep.
Competitor for sure.
The 2-2 up the middle and a base hit.
There's another ball out over the plate.
It's now a 9-game hitting streak for Will Myers. Manny Machado saw his hit streak snapped at 16. Matt Latos 4-0 for the White Sox. And Jacob deGrom 5 2/3, 8 hits, gave up a run in his return. Remember, he had a newborn. He had a 10-2 that had some issues, so he's back in the rotation for the Mets. Matt Kemp fly to right, first time up, 0 for 1. Really good years for Matt Kemp wearing that Dodger uniform. And so many outfielders made him expendable. And then he was traded away as Leake wants to talk to Yadier Molina. You would think, and Jimmy, you played and had some great games in Cincinnati, you would think that getting out of that ballpark could only benefit Mike Leake, where routine fly balls turn into home runs.
Especially in that right field area, right center field area. Ball really carries there in the summer.
He had 85 starts in his career at home with Cincinnati. His ERA was 4.31. Outside of that ballpark, 87 starts and a run lower. So big difference there. Busch Stadium saw the 4th fewest home runs hit there in the National League a season ago. Here's a 1-0 pitch. Out to left. On the move, Hazelbaker over his head. And a ground rule double. The Cardinals catch a break. We saw that earlier in the series with a ground rule double off the bat of Kemp. Cost him an RBI. Now the Padres have runners at second and third.
Yep, once again trying to get the ball down and away. The ball just kind of runs back over the plate. So it didn't run. It looked like it just spun up there. I don't know if that was a cutter or a bad cutter or just a fastball that didn't do much, but right back to the center of the plate, and that's where the barrel usually goes through the zone. We have to find new ways to say it.
Pitches up, get hit. Melvin Upton Jr. There's your ground ball. Diaz to first base. Run does score, and this game is tied. That scores Will Myers. Infield not playing in, so Diaz only play to go across the diamond.
Made a good pitch right there, get a ground ball. If you like scratch your head if you're the manager and you're weighing whether you should play in or play back, and then he goes and makes that pitch right there, and you think he's been giving up fly balls today, so maybe we'll just stay back and get the out. And he makes the best pitch of the day to get the ground ball.
Here's Brett Wallace, and he taps it foul. Wallace is now 1 for 17 to begin the year. He struck out back in the second. 13th overall pick by the Cardinals in 2008. This is his 43rd game against St. Louis. And in his career, he's hit well above 300 against the team that originally drafted him. It's amazing. I was telling you about his numbers when he played at Arizona State. Here's a guy that was a 2-time Pac-10 Player of the Year, but won the Triple Crown twice, and yet still really hasn't found a home in the major leagues. It's a tough league, man.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a whole new ball game up here. You know the age difference between these two guys. They played against each other in college. A little fun fact for everyone.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. It's sharply to the right side. Diving stop by Jerko. Takes a hit and an RBI away. The Cardinals had the shift on for Wallace, and he makes a great play diving to his left. That saves a run and keeps this game tied at 2-2. Jed Jerko's had a great return to San Diego this weekend. We head to the fourth. Stop. It's shallow right, taking the hit away from Brett Wallace. And he leads it off. Looks at a breaking ball low. Picked up a base hit to left. He's 1 for 1 today. One point last year, the Padres sent Jerko back down to the minor leagues to retool his swing. He came back to hit 14 home runs. They sent him to the minor leagues, and this rarely happens after he had signed and was making big money, that contract.
Yeah, sometimes you don't really have a choice. You can't stay up here and struggle. Obviously you need to win now here in the big leagues, but you also don't send guys down when they're making a lot of money. So you got to figure it out some way. Hopefully in that situation, you know, sometimes the player says, hey, I'm okay with it, or maybe something was wrong, he's nagging injuries. But you don't want to be up here not contributing to the team. So figure something out.
3-1 pitch. Now 3-2. He's averaged 16 home runs the last 3 years. Much better against lefties historically in his career, and that's why the Cardinals brought him in. Could spell a Carpenter, Peralta, or even Wong, and hits this one out to deep right field. On the move is Kemp near the wall, and it's off the top of the wall. Gets away. Jerko to second and on his way to third with a leadoff triple. Jed Jerko standing up. What a series he's had.
You could see the power right there too, staying inside the ball and driving that ball off the wall, but it's a long way to hit the ball for a right-hander. See right here, he just gets a fastball. It's actually a pretty good pitch. He stays back and drives it. See Matt Kemp, primarily been a center fielder, just not really sure where the wall was, and it's a tough spot out there when you run that far.
So the infield is drawn in for Diaz. He's trying to make it 8 for 8 in the series. Infield hit, stole a base back in the second. Think about game 1 and his base running error, which really cost the Cardinals, but again, it's the fine line of a manager. Young player, you don't want to lose that aggressiveness. You talk to him about the situation, but you also encourage to be aggressive. Diaz with a fly ball into right. Kemp coming on. He'll make the catch. And a strong throw to the plate. And Jerko does not challenge Kemp, even though Mike Leake is on deck.
You can see another throw offline right there. They thought it was a better decision not to challenge him. Pretty good throw by Matt Kemp. It also comes into play too, as you can see the third base coach kind of watching what's going on, and Matt Kemp was literally on the run the entire time with his momentum going towards the plate, so that'll play into it too, where guy's flat-footed, maybe you challenge him. He's got that much momentum, you got to kind of be careful.
As you saw firsthand, this guy can handle the bat. Hasn't shown it yet regular season, but in spring training hit the ball well too.
Little sac fly is all you need here.
1 ball, 1 strike on Mike Leake. Seventh plate appearance for the Cardinals with a man in scoring position. Breaking ball drops in for a strike. The 1-2. Leake doesn't chase.
You can see Colin Ray knows that Mike Leake can hit a little bit. He's throwing him cutters and curveballs. Not just going to give in to him.
Stays alive.
Something that we talked about early, trying to throw a ball, throw the ball in from the outfield. You can see he gets into his glove and he's kind of trying to make sure he can get the right grip. Can't really see great right there, but doesn't look like he got 4 seams either.
Base hit into center field. Mike Leake, his first Cardinal hit, drives in a run. That's Jerko, and the Cardinals back on top 3-2.
Right there, the infield's in. Just barely gets it over the second baseman's head. I think sometimes being the manager, just you see right here the infield being in. Just need a little bloop single. I think if the infield's back, he's probably going to score right there. I don't know, maybe the second baseman catches that ball in the air, but see why you get second guessed so much as a manager. And you literally have
Every
so
pitch.
many, well, you have so many opportunities to make adjustments, and you can't just be in the right spot all the time. You take your chances with a hunch, and If you win, it's great. You look like a hero. Nobody says a word. And doesn't work out. Everyone wants to know why you did it.
There's an 0-1 pitch to Carpenter. And a fly ball lifted out to left. Out number 2. Catch is made. Leak back to the bag at first. Matt is 0 for 2 with a walk today, and it brings in Stephen Piscotty. Talked to Stephen Piscotty the other day about how he retooled his swing. And one of the things that he did go back and look at was old video of Mark McGwire. Talking about flattening the plane of his swing through the zone, and the idea was to get under it rather than on top of the pitch. We watched video of McGwire and Bonds and Pujols, and it's made a difference. I found it interesting too. He's such a smart guy, but he said he actually went back and looked at other players that were 6'5", had long arms like he does, and he said Alex Rios was one of the players that he went back and studied. His degree is atmosphere. Yeah. His degree is atmosphere and energy engineering. One ball, one strike.
That looked funny.
Wait a minute. What did you see that I did?
He tripped. I thought he was going to balk for sure. He kind of stepped back. I think he looked down for a split second. I was watching the TV, and he almost tripped trying to throw the ball over to first base. Kind of caught my eye.
Here's a 1-1. Scotty's home run last night off the scoreboard and left. Just a line shot. Outfield is deep, and a 2-1 pitch tied him up. Piscotty came up back in the second inning with runners at second and third, and he had a frustrating at bat. He was sure upset with the check swing, weak ground ball to first, and then he struck out on a check swing back in the first inning. The 2-2, and he strikes out. Number 3 for Colin Ray, but the Cardinals regain the lead. Mike Leake, RBI single to score Jed Jerko. 3-2 Cardinals. Every home Sunday throughout the season here at Petco Park. It's 3-2 Cardinals. Let's check in with Jim Hayes. Jimmy.
And Jeremy Hazelbaker, that 3-run pinch hit home run in the 7th last night to put the Cardinals on top for good. It's been a sensational start to Hazelbaker's rookie year. But he carried that 0 for 17 with 8 strikeouts into last night's game. Hazelbaker told me he didn't dwell on it, never gave in to negative thinking. He said he always tries to stay even keel, and he just kept his head up and kept working like, as he said, a big leaguer. Dan, he told me, quote, "This is where I'm supposed to be," but he also knows he's going to have to keep on proving it. But Dan, as you know, a very confident guy.
Good stuff, Jimmy. And Jim Edmonds, I would say it's got to be tough, human nature, when you played as many games in the minor leagues as he has, and this is Alexei Ramirez at the plate. Then all of a sudden you start to struggle and you think, well,
here we go.
Here we go. And what do they think of me? Am I looking over my shoulder?
It's definitely got to be tough. I mean, it's human nature. And you can't worry about staying up there, worrying about what you're doing each and every day. And that is just the worst way to play this game. And it's what's so good about some.
Leak makes the catch. What a play.
Wow,
saved his shin.
I think that one would have hurt. That would have hit him in the shin. He catches this ball right by the bottom of his knee. It's this replay right here. It's amazing how quickly these guys can react. I mean, he's actually in position to catch that ball and makes an effort.
Did you see the reaction there, Ramirez? You got to be kidding me.
Had quite a few of those reactions over the years.
Jamal Weeks. Infield is in terms of Carpenter on the grass at third base, and that's a curveball taken, blown away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Tell you what, the cat has been just on it this
on
weekend.
His game.
Yeah,
he is on his game.
And Jimmy's made his way into the booth. One and 2 the count on Jamal Weeks. Just missed on the inside corner.
You know, even though Jim Edmonds was talking about pecking on me, it's always a pleasure to see him. What a delight Jim Edmonds is.
Really is.
When he sits down and stares at you and starts with, you know, you just never know.
That's a good way to put it.
Keep that in mind, Edmonds, too.
The cat, I have to say the cat, because if I say Jimmy, then you both look at me. But was ball game here, was he good to you when he was playing?
When he was playing, he was great. And when we host together, he's great.
Oh, there's a synergy on that post game that's unlike anything I've seen.
Well, you guys are pretty special together also.
Well, I appreciate that.
It's a little better now that I'm not playing and under all that stress.
Here's a ground ball to Aledmys Diaz. And he makes the play.
You didn't seem that stressed as a player.
A little tense at times.
Well, things can be tense too when you're 0 for 17, like Jeremy Hazelbaker was. And then last night, this helps things. His 4th home run this year. 2nd time that he's had a pinch hit home run.
Such a short swing with so much power, too.
A strike to Christian Bethancourt.
I love the visits to the booth from the cat. Livens up the game a little bit.
It depends on your perspective. Cat's been doing this a long time. Puts in a lot of long hours too, and we appreciate everything he does. As you know, very good relationships with the players, and
someone's got to do it.
Yep. So it's the cat. Here's the 0-2. I mean, after a tough game and a loss, and you got to go in and talk to Tony La Russa, that's not a lot of fun. I just saw you just go pale.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier about getting second guessed. And I said the poor cat that has to do all the questions.
He does.
To go down there and ask the tough questions. You're the manager and you see him come in the room, you're kind of like, oh boy, what does he want? Here comes another question.
would think that's the part of the job if you're not used to it. And Mike Matheny went from, you know, coaching little league kids to managing at this level. But
kids.
one of the big, older kids.
Older kids.
But dealing with the media. A high fly ball into left center field. Will it carry out of here? It does. Home run. Hanging breaking ball. Bethancourt, the solo shot, his first of the year. And we are tied.
Just a hanging breaking ball.
Yep.
Breaking ball up in the zone. Stayed up there a little too long, and Mike Leake knew that ball was going to go a long way. Not afraid to say that that might not be a home run at night.
I agree. You know, we've seen probably, I would guess, 4 or 5 that have been like that. They would stop at the track as Colin Ray is retired and the 4th inning comes to a close. The home run by Bethancourt. He's got 2 RBIs today. We're tied up as we head to the 5th. It's 3-3. Catching duo, Derek Norris and Bethancourt, had struggled this year, but Bethancourt with a couple of RBIs, and moments ago a solo home run tie this game up at 3. It's Brandon Moss, Randall Grichuk, and Yadier Molina. Moss with a run scored, and he popped out into foul territory against the shift, and it was a tremendous play by Alexi Ramirez near the Cardinal dugout. Look at where Ramirez is now. That's strike 1. And with 1 strike, or rather that's a ball taken by Moss, but with 1 pitch he backs up near that shortstop position. That's hit out of play. Brandon nearly gave up the game of baseball in 2011. He said he wanted to quit. Wife said, okay, 2 conditions. Give baseball 1 more shot. And don't do it solely because you want to be home with the family. Make sure it's out of your system. And it was Bob Melvin who convinced Brandon Moss that he would move to first base from the outfield, natural outfielder, extended his career. And it's happened in a big way. At 55 home runs 2 years in a row. As Jay puts that liner off the bat of Moss for the out.
And he's hitting, what is he hitting, 180 something? And he has hit 3 or 4 balls, 5 balls on the nose here in this stadium and got nothing to show for it.
Cardinals Insider is coming up. Players share reflection on Lou Brock, interview with Mike Matheny about balancing his career and family. It's brought to you by your Mid-America Chevy dealers. You'll see that tonight after the game. Here's Randal Grichuk. Strike one. When you first started playing, you wouldn't see that shift. By the end of your career, you saw it all the time.
Not as much as they do now, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of creeps in there. I remember Jim Tomei. They would play him to pull on the infield, but on the outfield, he'd hit the ball from line to line. And that's just, I don't know. I remember when they first came into the league, some of the pitchers didn't like it too much because they felt like it took away from what they were trying to do if they had to make a pitch down and away to a guy, that he could just squirt it accidentally. It's like a left-hander hitting it towards third base and walk away with an easy hit.
How about as a hitter? Was it distracting when you had a guy up the middle?
No, not really. You don't really look at it too often. You try not to. You can't worry about it. You know, you're trying to just hit whatever he's throwing, and it doesn't dictate too much of what you're trying to do at the plate. I mean, you can't really force the ball, especially on the ground, one way or the other.
Here's a 1-2. They talk about with Grichuk pitch recognition, in particular with the slider. Randal has struck out 16 times this year, second most on the team to Moss. The 2-2. You worked an awful lot with Randal Grichuk in spring training, and the word that Grichuk described in your work with him was anticipation. You're always saying anticipate with balls in center field. So he chops this up the middle for a base hit. 2 for 3 today. 30,000 fans on Friday, April 29th, ages 16 and older, receive an adult zip-up hooded sweatshirt. You'll stay warm as you cheer on the Cardinals all season long. Visit cardinals.com/promotions for tickets for the adult zip-up hooded sweatshirt.
It's funny you say anticipation and playing defense. It's the one thing you can't do when you hit. You can't anticipate a pitch or think that he's going to do something until you actually see it.
Grichuk stole a base back in the first inning. You know, Yadi's the kind of guy, when I think of anticipation, I just think that he thinks along with the pitcher so well. Knows what they're trying to do to him. Has a good understanding of the strike zone clearly, but also a very good understanding of the league and what guys are trying to do against him.
And he's very calm in the box. He's very relaxed as far as letting the ball get to him. He's not worried about hitting foul balls or getting jammed. That's why he's so good at what he does, is he can wait and wait and wait and not overreact. He's not trying to yank home runs. He's not trying to pull the ball. You can see he takes his rips here and there, but he's consistently working the count, just trying to drive the ball up the middle.
Now watch Bill Miller here, the first base coach. He's talking with Randal Grichuk. They'll go over the signs. Every pitch, are they talking about situations here? Are those kind of conversations?
Sometimes they just want to make sure that they're seeing the right sign. You know, if you're going to put on a play and the hitter gets it and the first baseman doesn't get it, it gets frustrating. So first base coach is over there. Sometimes he'll pinch you. Sometimes he'll touch you. Sometimes That's what they use as a key just in case you don't get the sign. Looks like they're pretty sure that somebody's going to be running and somebody's going to be hitting. But Dave McKay was great at that. He knew the signs so well, and Dave McKay was so good with La Russa that he knew the signs before the third base coach gave the sign. And he would just say, you're going, or pinch you, if I touch you, you got to run on this pitch. Just makes it a little easier. You know, there's a lot going on out there. Just got to hit. You've been struggling. Trying to read what's going on with the pitcher, and sometimes it's nice to have the first base coach tell you exactly what to do.
The 2-1 pitch. He is running. It's hit to the right side. Little squibber, Weeks to his left. And the stretch at first by Myers. Brings in Hazelbaker with 2 outs and a man in scoring position. You almost think on a play like that Richard might have been able to get to third.
Definitely, when you see the play develop, you think that he could have, and he probably could have if he'd have kept running that hard, but it's just a play you don't see very often, so it's not even in your mind. It's so nice about sitting up here. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Plus the play is behind him a little bit, and you're taught to look at your third base coach when the play is behind you, but not a whole lot of times is the play behind you on the infield.
Sure.
Usually that's out in the outfield and you don't have to worry about it as much. But
Cardinals have run twice on Melvin Upton Jr. with man at second base and scored 2 runs. Hazelbaker is swinging a miss.
Don't you think he's got such a short swing for such a strong guy and a big guy too? Tall, lanky.
Noticed in spring training too, he was adept at going the other way with a little power. You know, he'll turn on a pitch, and we've seen that plenty of times, but also can spray it a little bit too. Here's a 1-1.
That's the one thing that I talked to him about in spring training is early on in camp it looked like he was feeling for the ball and just trying to, somebody might have told him that not here but in the past use his speed. I like when he swings the bat. Like, you got to take your swings. You got to do when you get a chance to get a fastball early in the count, go ahead and let it go. Took a good swing right there. 1-1 pitch. Now you can cut back a little bit. Use your hands and just try to put the ball in play somewhere hard.
1 ball and 2 strikes. So 2-2. You've seen Ray incorporate that breaking ball a little bit more often here as the game has gone on. As a hitter, what are you thinking here? 2-2.
You really can't think. That's the big thing. I think just really need to rely on what you see and just staying back and just try not to do too much.
There's the breaking ball, and it's hit to second. Jamal Weeks puts it away. Cardinals strand a man. They have left 6 on. We're midway through 5. 3-3. Special military day. Sunday home games here in San Diego as Jerko throws wide on a routine play. Jay hustling down the line, and Jed Jerko commits the error. The simplest of plays, and that's his third error.
Another one of those plays you're talking about, routine ground ball. Just really no rhyme or reason. Maybe get a little lazy with your feet. And arm drags a little bit. And
you know, the other thing that does, obviously it opens up the door a little bit here for San Diego, but it extends innings on your pitching staff. You do not want to see that. This will be pitch number 66 for Leake. The Cardinals trying to figure out a way to get Will Myers out. He has walked back in the first, single to center to extend his hitting streak to 9 games. When he bats second in their lineup, he's hitting close to 400. That's where he's at today. They've moved him all over the place in his brief Padres career. Outside of the second spot, he's around 250. It's kind of like Carpenter. He loves being a leadoff man. Hits much better from that spot.
I was going to say, I think he's a 2-hole hitter for me if that's the case.
Pulled foul. And some guys, it's just the way it is. Their numbers, how comfortable they are, they want to be in a specific place in a lineup. One ball and 2 strikes. Padres came in 0 for 8 in the 2 games with runners in scoring position. They've scored 2 runs in that spot today. Here's a 1-2. Curveball blocked by Yadier Molina. Evens it up at 2-2. The 2-2. We just take Yadi for granted, don't we?
Yeah, I was just going to say, working so hard. You see right there, he lets the ball just get underneath his legs. Yadi is not going to give that ball a chance to get underneath there.
I was talking with Rick Horton the other day, and we both agree Yadi is moving better this year than he has in a number of seasons, and that's saying something because he's moved well last few years, but exceptionally well here in 2016.
You don't want to see anyone get hurt, but I think that was a really good program they had him on in spring training. I wonder if that doesn't end up being kind of a routine for him to keep his legs fresh.
Watch Molina hold this ball. He thought he had strike 3. Chevy Fox Tracks tells us it was. Sometimes when you have to reach, you don't get that call.
And you move it to the inside, the umpire moves a little bit more with you so he can stay protected. Can't really see back across the outside.
Runner goes on the 3-2. It's fouled back. Teams just do not run against Yadier Molina. I mean, that's the other thing. I went back and looked at about a 10-year period, and the average catcher is seeing 3 times more than what Molina faces in terms of base stealers. Controls the running game.
I guess he's earned that. A little less stress on him, but rightfully so.
Runner goes again, and the pitch is taken for a ball. The Cardinals in this series have hit 4 home runs, and they've hit a bunch already to start this year. 26th. They do not allow many. The differential is +17 in that category. And doesn't it seem like a lot of 3-run homers too?
Those are the big ones.
So Myers has walked twice, and now Matt Kemp. Ground rule double into left center, back in the 3rd, and flied out to right. It's a big inning right here. First pitch is a strike. Ground ball that's hit to 3rd. Carpenter to 2nd. Out there, the turn by Jerko. And a double play. Needed that. 5-4-3 on the double play. First turn by the Cardinals this afternoon.
I'm confused. How about you?
So they've asked.
We're getting to the point where we can sit up here and watch it all happen and still not know what's going on.
Well, they've asked John Jay to return to second base. And that slide may be the ruling that you get. So it's a double play. And the new slide rules at second base talk about how you have to go back or into the fielder in a straight line. And you can see his legs kick out ever so slightly there at the end of that play. And so what happens then, dead ball, double play. Runner returns to his original bag, which is what has happened here with John Jay.
You know what was running through my mind as that was developing? I was thinking to myself, a couple years ago, he would have gotten blasted and they would have not turned that double play. And then you just ho-hum nice and easy and double play. And then obviously confusion and still the double play.
Slide prior to reaching the base. You're sliding where you're able to and attempt to reach the base or touch the base. You have to slide so you're able to stay on the base. And then I think what got the Padres here, the final part of that rule, you don't change your pathway to the base.
And he did.
Off the glove of Aledmys Diaz. And a run will score. That's John Jay. And Melvin Upton Jr. has his second RBI, and it's 4-3 Padres.
And now it doesn't matter what happened with that double play.
Off the glove of Aledmys Diaz, and at least you want to see him keep this on the infield.
Yeah, he almost just overdove. Kind of went too far. Ball got underneath him.
So it's a big 2-out RBI base hit. And the infield defense has cost the Cardinals here. Remember the error by Jed Jerko, so Leake should be out of the inning.
Is there such a thing as overdove?
Well, in that case, it works.
What would you use there?
Dove past. Maybe there. I like overdove. I was fine with that. Time was called by Molina on that pickoff. Melvin Upton Jr. leads your club in stolen bases with 5. With a guy like Mike Leake, with the ground balls that you get, the infield defense has to be ready to go. And it has cost the Cardinals here in inning number 5. Shift is on for Wallace, who looks at a strike. Cardinals have had great pinch hitting. The home runs we talked about. The bullpen has been sensational, but the errors catches your attention with 18 now to lead all the baseball.
Definitely not a category you want to lead the major leagues in.
One ball, one strike as they pitch out. A number of these errors have been made on the infield that we talked about, and now Wallace is hit by the pitch. We have Carpenter with 3, Diaz with 5, Jerko now with 3. So the Cardinals all told with 18, and 16 of the 18 on the infield. And you mentioned it earlier, Jimmy. I mean, with Aledmys Diaz, you're living with the good, living with the bad. The good has been the offense. And a base hit out to left on a hanging breaking ball. Alexei Ramirez drives in the run to make it 5-3 San Diego.
Breaking ball stayed up just a little bit. You see right the situation, little extra long in the inning. Pitch count getting up there a little bit. Breaking ball's not as sharp.
Well, that's what it is. It's twofold. I mean, you have a situation where you should be out of the inning, and now here in the 5th, he's had 18 pitches and should be out of it. Jamal Weeks single to right, grounded out to short. Runners at first and second. Diaz did not get the air on that play, but think about the ball staying on the infield, and Jerko routine ground ball to second base and threw wide to Moss at first. Historically, as Matt Bowman starts to get loose, today's starter Mike Leake has been a slow starter in his career. April, 28 starts, this being number 29 in his career with an ERA over 4, and then as the season goes on, that's when that ERA gets a lot better. In May it's around 3, June stays around there as well. You know, the Cardinals starters have not been what we thought coming out of spring training. When you look at Mike Leake and Adam Wainwright, you would think it's a matter of time. The bullpen exceptional. No balls and 2 strikes.
You usually have a couple guys that are slow starters. You just don't want to have more than one. You know, you got Adam with a slow start too, but these guys are finding their way through it. It's just it makes it a little bit harder on everyone.
Called third strike on the outside corner. 4 today for Mike Leake. The errors cost St. Louis. It's 5-3. 5-3. San Diego with the lead over St. Louis. 7 hits aside and an error side. What's on tap? Presented by Budweiser. Will be in Arizona tomorrow night. Jaime Garcia, 5-0, his career record against Arizona. Zach Greinke will go for the Diamondbacks. Budweiser, what's on tap? Will come your way at 8 St. Louis time. So they're going to go to their bullpen here in the 6th inning. Our Chevy call to the pen. And this is Quackenbush. Kevin Quackenbush. Colin Ray, 5 innings today. 7 hits, 3 runs. Struck out 3 and walked 2. Here's Jed Jerko. And the first pitch taken for a ball. Mike Matheny saying yesterday that at times you'll get a little extra jump from a player that faces his former team, and that's what we've seen this weekend with Jed Jerko.
Trying to show what you got. Trying to maybe try to make some people think that they shouldn't have let you go. It's always.
And a high fly ball out to deep right field. Will it carry? He's done it again. Jed Jerko, solo home run to right. And Jed Jerko is now a double away from the cycle as the boos rain down on the former Padre.
There are the boos back. Those are good boos. You want to hear those boos. We were talking earlier about the power. I mean, he's letting the ball get deep and hitting the ball hard in the right field.
Last night it was Jed Jerko. Think he knew it? 3-run homer late in that game. Today he is 3 for 3. Single to left, triple off the wall and right, and a solo home run here in the 6th. Cuts a lead to 5-4, and here's Aledmys Diaz. Diaz, fly ball. This game is tied. Back-to-back home runs, and a catch by the fan in left. Hey, buddy, nice play. Diaz does it again. 3rd home run, and we're tied up at 5.
What are the chances your second baseman makes an error, shortstop dives past the ball, doesn't keep it in the infield, they come back and hit back-to-back homers the next inning?
Jerko, that's his 4th. Diaz, his 3rd. And he's 2 for 3. That's going to be it for Quackenbush. This game is tied at 5, and a double switch is coming up. Pitched an inning and a 3rd last night, gave up a run. Now Andy Green will go with the double switch. Jamal Weeks coming out of the ball game. Home run differential, outstanding for the Cardinals. Chevy call to the pen. We'll tell you about the change when we come back. Nobody out. Mike Leake's spot is up. Cardinals will pinch in with Ruben Tejada. Then we'll see Carpenter and Piscotty. The Hyundai pitch arsenal for the lefty. Adam Rosales. He takes over at second base. So Tejada looks at a strike. Brand new game. It's 5-5. Looks like a wedding band on the pitching hand of Buchter, but it is a Band-Aid. I don't see that very often where a pitcher is allowed to do that. And a ground ball off the glove of the third baseman. Ramirez is there and makes a very good play on the adjustment.
Wow.
Good play.
Straight reaction right there. Like the ball was tipped by Wallace. Tipped by Wallace, pushed it back. He still had a chance to grab it and make a good throw.
The RBI that we spoke of last night by Matt Carpenter was against a lefty, not Buchter. It was against Brad Hand. It's a 5-5 game here in the top of the sixth. That pitch taken low and outside. Carpenter has walked. He has struck out and also flied out to left. So Mike Leake is off the hook. He struck out 4. Walked 2, hit a man, gave up 5 runs on 7 hits. A much different line though with some plays made behind him. 3-1. And again now he's going to have to wait till that next start. That will come Friday night in St. Louis at Busch Stadium against the Nationals. Sunday, May 1st. It's a great day for the kids at the ballpark. That day, kids 15 and younger entering with a ticket receive a 28-inch Randall Grichuk bat, courtesy of Rawlings, and a voucher valid for a free ticket to a 2016 Cardinals game. That's courtesy of Ritz. Also stop by the Ford Plaza prior to the game. Prairie Farms Ice Cream Sunday. More details and tickets, cardinals.com/promotions. And a strike at the knees to Stephen Piscotty.
Just hasn't looked comfortable today. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, check swings.
Not seeing the ball real good. Yeah. See if against this lefty doesn't help him out a little bit. Something different.
Good play by Bethancourt. Runner at first is Matt Carpenter. Piscotty is 0 for 3. Pair of strikeouts and a ground out. And a fly ball lifted down the right field line. It is slicing and a foul ball. Great effort there by Matt Kemp.
think he's overslid that. We have an overdove and an overslid.
I was just thinking that.
What the heck is going on out here today? Well, took his eye off it a little bit, worried about the wall. Like I said, when you're in center field for so many years, and that corner is tough. I mean, it's not the same. And just standing out there for a couple of months or even just a year, you still aren't nearly as comfortable in the corner as you are in center.
And late with that swing as Piscotty strikes out. Third time he has struck out today. I think he picked up on something. He's just a little bit off this afternoon. First strikeout for Buchter, and now it's Moss. The Cardinals have their second baseman and shortstop go back-to-back with solo home runs. As Moss pops it up. The Cardinals on the long ball here in the month of April with 28, tied with Colorado, a team that you always anticipate being at the top of that list. Then Arizona, Chicago, and the Mets. Aledmys Diaz getting close to 500. He has 8 doubles to lead the club, 3 home runs, a triple. Not a bad start. Here's an 0-1 pitch to Moss. Cardinals on the right side of their bench with Matt Holliday. Sure we'll see him at some point today. And you have Wong and Adams from the left side. Derek Fryer, your backup catcher. Very short lead at first by Carpenter. And Moss is hit by the pitch.
Not sure where that got him. Obviously it looks like the hand or the wrist. The wrist.
So he gets Moss on an 0-2 pitch. Runners at first and second. And a chance now for Randal Grichuk. Grichuk is 2 for 3. We were talking between innings, and I agree with you. You asked me about how loud and boisterous this crowd has been. This is as loud in terms of boos I could ever remember. They booed Jed Jerko. They booed Quackenbush.
A little more into the game this year, it seems to me.
Yep.
Which is nice. I mean, it's what you want. A little bit better atmosphere. Big crowd. Packed all the way out there on that hill again. A good crowd here today.
2 outs, 2 on. Grichuk looks at a ball a little bit low. Had a 2-out RBI back in the first. Popped out to the catcher. And then single to center. Here's a 1-0 pitch. Two and 0.
I like to see this at bat right here by Randal, taking 2 pitches that are borderline pitches, not trying to do too much. Trying to be a little bit more patient.
The 2-0 pitch. Good cut. You're talking about Hazelbaker with that short swing, and Grichuk, ever since he's gone to laying the bat a little bit flatter, very, very short.
One thing that scares me about the bat flat thing, makes me think that he's worried about getting to that inside pitch a little quicker. And when you start thinking about that, it really takes away from your approach as far as trying to stay up the middle, trying to stay back. I haven't had a chance to ask him about why he changed, but thinking that hopefully it's for other reasons than just to worry about not getting to the pitch inside.
I have asked him. That's one of the reasons why. So went with the flatter bat postseason of 2 years ago, and then really pronounced early last year. He stays away from that pitch, and so the runner's off with the 3-2 upcoming.
Probably the biggest thing that can hurt you as a hitter is what we talked about before, anticipation and looking for pitches inside. Being able to hit that pitch inside makes you have to start a little bit earlier. Doesn't give you any margin for error if you have to stay back and look for a breaking ball.
3-2, and he swings and misses. Quackenbush came in, 9 pitches, then was taken out. Greeted by the boos of the fans. Because of this, Jerko Diaz, they go back to back. And with that, the Cardinals have tied it up 5-5 midway through 6. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. The games will be right here on Fox Sports Midwest. Tuesday, televised nationally on FS1. Also can watch them all live on Fox Sports Go. Seung-Hwan Oh is our Chevy call to the pen. We saw Oh pitch the 7th inning last night. Struck out the side, pitched around an error by the shortstop Diaz. So far, when you watch Seung-Hwan Oh, you have to really like what you've seen. Yesterday, the 2nd time he struck out the side. 5th time this year in 9 outings. Retired the inning in 15 pitches or under. Think about that. Very efficient. Here's Bethencourt. Eugene Koo, the interpreter. His strikeout percentage is over 50%. O is at 51%. The only pitcher in the big leagues now with a strikeout percentage over 50%.
Talked about that late life on that fastball. Throw the fastball by a couple guys and they start cheating. Makes that breaking ball so much easier just to flip in there for a strike and either get swings way out in front of it or Guys are flinching and having to take it.
And it's fouled back.
He's always around the plate.
Here's a 1-2. In the air as he elevated that pitch out to shallow center. There's Randall Grichuk, and he makes the catch. And you have to give the Cardinals front office a ton of credit. And Matt Slater was at the forefront of looking at O on video and trying to dissect it, along with John Mozeliak and Michael Gersh and John Vooch. You know, you find these guys all over the world. Can they play at this level? Does it translate what he did in Korea and Japan to Major League Baseball? And the answer has been a resounding yes. Fastball, strike. Adam Rosales, part of the double switch. First plate appearance here this afternoon. Get that little toe tap and hides the ball so well. Late swings against him. Good slider.
Just nice smooth delivery. Ball jumps.
You mentioned it yesterday too, Jimmy, when the Cardinals call up their players, they are ready to go. For the most part, not in awe of being in a big league game. And Gary LaRocque, who runs the farm system, along with John Vooch and some of the others that we mentioned, they get these guys ready to go. Strike two.
I think a really good thing that they do is that they mix the young players in spring training. They give these guys an opportunity to come up, see what it's all about, get them in some games. And if you're not on the 40-man and you're a pretty good prospect, they're going to let you come up for a day here and there and use you as an extra and let you see what it's all about.
On the outside corner. First strikeout for O. Well, you wouldn't get confused with Hazelbaker. Sung Wan Oh.
It's nice right there. Get your own shoe.
Uh-huh.
Him and Michael Jordan.
Here's John Jay. We are told that in Korea they will cut away and show when he comes in games nationally. You know, he is very, very popular. We've seen hitters that have come over here and had success, but here's a closer that decided that he still was in the prime of his career, wanted a chance to compete against the world's best, and here he is. The 0-2 pitch to John Jay. Thinking of the Cardinals farm system, John Jay coming up through the farm system. Another player that has contributed to championship teams in St. Louis. 13th pitch here for O. And a fly ball lifted into shallow right center. There's Randall Grichuk. So Sung Wan Oh. A 1-2-3 here in the 6th. run inning. The Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Buchter, the lefty, his second inning of work. It'll be Molina, Hazelbaker, and Jerko. Jed Jerko, by the way, a double away from the cycle against his former team. And the first pitch is taken for a strike. Molina, a 2-out RBI to left field back in the first inning. And scored Randall Grichuk to make it 2-0 at that time. He's also walked and grounded out. Bounces that foul past Chris Maloney. Pretty excited fan right there. Got the camouflage San Diego cap. And the Padres are wearing the navy camo, which is the blueberry tops. Kevin Segrist is starting to throw in the Cardinals bullpen. Good sign. He's been fighting the flu bug, and he was questionable today. Here's the 0-2. It sets up that you would have Segrist, 7th inning, maybe even 2 innings work out of him. Trying to get to Rosenthal in a save situation. Kevin has not been scored upon this year. He, along with Fernando Rodney, are 2 of the 8 pitchers in the National League who have not been scored upon. The 1-2 pitch to Yadier Molina. You were saying the other day, Jimmy, I mean, you get to a point, it doesn't matter if you're a pitcher, third baseman, center fielder in your case, you may not feel good for 6 months out of the year, maybe 7. You get into postseason play. Then you think about the wear and tear on Yadier Molina, and just answers the bell. I think that's part of his greatness. Plays every single day, just about.
Learn how to pace yourself over time. Especially don't like to see when your catcher hits balls off of his shin.
Exactly.
When he's hitting, as much as he gets beat up behind the plate.
Seven pitch at bat so far.
Couldn't have a better personality for a catcher that goes out there every day. Mellow, doesn't exert a whole lot of energy.
On the outside corner, Molina strikes out. BJC Healthcare difference maker. When did these home runs come? Look at that, 7th inning or later, 13 of them. It's an incredible amount. There's Hazelbaker, then Jed Jerko on deck.
Some big at bats right there with some big results.
Many pinch hit home runs late. That's tapped foul. Jeremy today is lined out and grounded out twice. Both to second base, 0 for 3.
Crossfire and lefty. Both sides. It makes it not fun on both sides of the plate. Throw the ball crossfiring in on the right-hander's hands, and then comes from behind you as a lefty and ends up away from you. Ends with some velocity, 92 there.
On 1 and 2. 2-2. See Hazelbaker a little bit more jumpy right now than he was maybe earlier in the year.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you get to the point where they pitch in a little bit, start thinking about it. Shoulder starts to get a little jumpy.
Plaza Tire Fox Tracks strikeout of Jeremy Hazelbaker.
It's a good hard fastball away. Hard to catch up with the fastball up and out over the plate at 92 miles an hour. It's just not a whole lot of fun lefty-lefty when you get that kind of crossfire action with the velocity.
A chance at the cycle for Jed Jerko. A single to left back in the second inning. A triple off the wall in right. Scored a run in the fourth. And a solo home run to greet Kevin Quackenbush when he came into the game in the sixth. Here's an 0-1 pitch. The last Cardinal to hit for the cycle. Spent 1 year in St. Louis. Very productive in 2005. Mark Bridzelonic. Good player.
See him trying to throw that fastball in underneath, trying to crossfire, get you kind of flinching a little bit, set up the breaking ball. That's the whole idea. The pitcher's just trying to get you to flinch a little bit so he can go right here, go back outside, and you can see guys are opening up a little bit. That front shoulder starts to leak just a little bit, makes it that much harder to hit the fastball or the breaking ball that's out over the plate.
The 3-1 pitch. Jerko with a fly ball out to shallow left. Coming on, Melvin Upton Jr. and he makes the catch. We are tied. San Diego and St. Louis. It is 5-5. 7th inning stretch time. And it's the singing of God Bless America.
For the 7th inning stretch. Before we sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game here on Military Sunday, please stand and welcome from the USS Theodore Roosevelt, electronics technician 3rd class Jessica Bork. Please sing along as she presents God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
ET3 Jessica Bork.
Chevy called to the pen. Opponents only hitting .091 against him this year. 6 2/3, and he's allowed just 2 base hits. He'll face Myers, Kemp, and Upton Jr. We are tied at 5-5 in the home half of the 7th, and now time is called by Yadier Molina. Crowd today 37,395. 37395. What is it about Siegrist that makes him so good, Jimmy? I mean, it's not the big curveball, it's very good velocity, but a big guy out there, left-handed, throws hard. What is it about him?
Gets on top of the ball. He's like a good version of left-handed Michael Wacha, except for being left-handed, he kind of crossfires a little bit. So not only do you have the velocity, you have the down angle and the crossfire. His ball can run, can cut. See, they'll go through a set of signs like there's a guy on second. Worried maybe somebody's watching over their shoulder. Don't see that too often.
He's in relief of O, who went 1 inning, struck out 1, no hits allowed. And an 0-2 pitch to Will Myers. Goodbye. 92. Looking for something else and could not pull the trigger.
That's what that crossfire does for you right there. Get you a little inside conscious. See a little step in the bucket. Fastball away, got no chance.
It's now 11 strikeouts in 8 appearances for Siegrist. He's also mixed in a breaking ball. You'll see that occasionally, the curveball that he was really working on in spring training. Here's Matt Kemp. Hit into a double play back in the 5th. Ground rule double, and is also flied out to right. You start thinking about these games the majority of the time as this season goes on. If it becomes a game in which it's a battle of the bullpens, Cardinals have the edge against just about anybody.
That's a solid bullpen, and they know they have a solid bullpen. That's something that they talked about during spring training. It's just one of the problems you have when you have so many good bullpen guys is who to use when you really just have to burn someone because you have a big lead or starting pitcher doesn't go as far as you want. That becomes an oddball problem to have, but it is a problem.
Yeah. The 2-0 pitch. On the flip side, if you're in tight games, you've got guys in the back of your mind that you designate as your long man. In this case, probably Bowman or Lyons, who also potentially could make a spot start if he needed to. But as the season goes on, they're not conditioned to do that. Then you've got to look to the minor leagues. 3-0 the count on Kemp. Good changeup.
Good changeup, 3-0. You don't see that very often at all.
And that was the pitch that Kemp hit yesterday for a double. That changeup. You've talked about him being a good off-speed hitter.
They obviously know he likes to swing 3-0. Trying to get the lead back with one big swing.
Here's a 3-1 pitch to Kemp. 3-2. This will be a good test coming up for the Cardinals. Arizona with Garcia and Greinke tomorrow. Martinez and Shelby Miller in game 2. Wainwright, Patrick Corbin game 3. And Michael Wacha gets the call in game 4 against Ruby De La Rosa. Here's a 3-2 pitch. Again with the changeup. Sometimes where Siegrist gets caught, he'll telegraph that changeup.
Slows down a little bit. Saw a little different body positioning on his changeup right there. I actually saw it and just kind of got caught staring at him, but you can definitely see slows up a little bit. Maybe not his best pitch, but when you throw 93, 94, he's been up to 96 and 7 in the past. You got to have a lot of respect for that fastball.
There it was again. Back-to-back changeups.
Better arm action right there. He didn't slow up as much. It's crazy when you're hitting, you can see that. It just catches your eye enough to slow you down to see something different's coming. Feel like you have enough time to know it's going to be a changeup, but you can kind of tell it's not going to be the fastball, and it just gives you enough of a head start to maybe slow up and hit the ball hard the other way.
3-2. He fights it off into shallow right center field. Grichuk diving. No, he didn't need to. Runs it down, and a nice play by Randal Grichuk.
We talked about right there showing the speed in the outfield because you don't always get to see it on the base paths. He got a good jump on that ball and went a long way.
Take a look at our Nissan drives of the game. Jed Jerko against Kevin Quackenbush. An opposite field home run, and then right after him, hanging breaking ball, Aledmys Diaz with a long home run. That tied the game up at 5. Here's Melvin Upton Jr. Couple of RBIs today. All-Star game will be held here in San Diego. Talking about this year being a celebration of Tony Gwynn, Mr. Padre. Had a sit down with Ozzie Smith back home in St. Louis last week. Had so many great things to say about Tony Gwynn. Come to think of it, never heard anything bad said about Tony Gwynn. One ball, one strike.
I'm just going to say you don't hear many negative things about him ever. He was a good man. Great hitter. Also played good defense. Something that people don't really know or talk about.
Multiple Gold Gloves for Tony Gwynn.
I'd like to look that one up.
Here's a 1-2. Missed down and in. Be one inning of work for Kevin Siegrist, who is due up second. By the way, Tony Gwynn won 5 Gold Gloves. Good work by Siegrist. Strikes out 2 in the home half of the 7th. We're tied. It's 5-5. Jankowski, you see him now into the game. And the reason why is that Melvin Upton Jr. has been ejected. Didn't like one of the strike calls midway through the at-bat. That's strike 2, and he was upset. So had words with the home plate umpire, and then later he would strike out. So he was ejected by home plate umpire Sean Barber. His day is through, so the cleanup man is gone. Aledmys Diaz, then Matt Adams will be the pinch hitter. He's on deck. And the new pitcher is Brandon Maurer. Numbers on Maurer as Diaz hits a fly ball and skies one into left center. This is John Jay. He's under it for the out. Here's Adams. He'll pinch hit. This has been a frustrating year at the start now for Matt Adams. Trying to get and find consistent playing time with Moss here. Holiday's played a little first base. A 5-5 game. We haven't seen it as much in regular season play, but Adams in spring training will drop down a bunt or two. He had a couple of base hits against this shift. Right when we said that, the shortstop, Ramirez, who was at
deep short.
Yeah, deep short for sure.
There he goes.
Came running in, and now he moves back. 3-0.
We must have our feed in the Padres dugout.
In Alexi's hat.
In Alexi's hat.
3-1. Adams is 2 for 6 as a pinch hitter with a home run and a couple of RBIs.
This is a situation I'd love to hear LaRussa's take on when to bunt and when not to bunt.
Yeah. Because you have a power hitter here with one swing to put you on top.
But a bunt is a good way to get the inning started with Carpenter on deck.
Adams rips it into right field. So the leadoff man is aboard.
Just do that instead.
That helps. Now it's time for Crickets something to smile about. From last night, young fan gets a souvenir. Carpenter with a pair of walks. He is struck out and also flied out to left. 5-5 our score. He's showing bunt, pulls back and takes a ball. It was the 10th time that Upton has been ejected from a game.
It's a lot,
I'd say.
I think I went out about maybe 4 times, 4 or 5 the most.
I remember you being at the plate, 2005 League Championship Series, game on the line, and you were ejected. I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either. Like one time I got thrown out in Anaheim for sticking up for Chili Davis. Just never know what you're going to get some days. The umpire situation.
Carpenter hits it down the right field line. That is a fair ball. Adams to third. Adams being waved in. The big man rumbling home. It's a triple for Carpenter, and the Cardinals have the lead 6-5. Where was Matt Kemp playing?
It was weird because Matt Adams actually looked back thinking maybe he was going to have someone closer to that play, but that ball's definitely in the corner. See Matt Adams flying around the bases.
And now the infield is drawn in for Stephen Piscotty. For Carpenter, that's his second triple of the year. Piscotty, fly ball into shallow right. Kemp coming on to make the catch. And a tough afternoon for Stephen Piscotty. That's a big out. Oh for 5 today. He is stranded 6.
One of those days. You can see Matt Kemp's playing way in the gap of Carp. Gets over there pretty good, gets it in like he's supposed to, but no chance to get anybody running around the bases there when the ball's that far in the corner.
They'd rather deal with Randal Grichuk, who's on deck. So intentional pass here to Moss. I know what the numbers say and how you position a particular hitter, but to me, Carpenter, the way he sprays the ball, I'm not sure you're doing yourself any favors by trying to shade him one way or another.
Yeah, you got to play him. I mean, I believe you got to play him straight up and just take your chances.
Agreed.
See how they're going to pitch him.
So the intentional walk here to Moss, who was hit by a pitch back in the 6th. Let's give Matt Adams some credit. His 3rd pinch hit already this year. As he scores from first on the triple by Matt Carpenter. Grichuk is 2 for 4 today with a pair of singles.
Guys continue to come off the bench and have good, successful at bats.
A 2-out RBI base hit by Grichuk back in the 1st. He's popped out, single to center, and then struck out in the 6th. Runners at 1st and 3rd. We're in the top of the 8th and a 1-run lead. Grichuk rips it into left center field. That ball is down. 1 run will score. Moss digging for 3rd. They'll wave him in. Relay to the plate. It's not in time. Moss scores. Grichuk burns the move by the Padres. And it's 8-5 Cardinals.
Randal Grichuk gets a pitch up in the zone and hammers it. Brandon Moss laboring around the bases. It's a long run from first base, by the way.
Big 2-out base hit by Grichuk as they pitched around Moss to get to the Cardinals center fielder.
Little miss of the location, but really good swing, and then safely sliding in there at home. The pitcher actually cut the ball off at the end.
I was about to say, why is the pitcher cutting that ball off?
I'm sure there's more than you asking that question right now.
He's got to let that go through just to even have a shot. And why is he not backing up? Molina, fly ball into left center, but positioned perfectly Jankowski. The Cardinals have 12 hits today, and they pick up 3 runs. And with that, they break a 5-5 tie. It's now 8-5 St. Louis. Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. Raise 1-2 right now. And by Steel Outdoor Power Equipment. Quality, reliability, and value. Find a servicing Steel dealer at steeldealers.com or search STIHL. Along with Jim Edmonds and Jim Hayes, I'm Dan McLaughlin. We're in San Diego. First of 2 stops on this road trip. We'll be in Arizona tomorrow night. Our Chevy call to the bullpen takes us to Jonathan Broxton. Broxton pitched in the 8th inning last night. Quick inning, too. I'm sure that plays a part into the thinking of Mike Matheny as to why you can bring him back here today. And so far, so good. 7 appearances, a 1.42 ERA. Here's Brett Wallace. 0 for 2, was hit by a pitch. And that's ball 1. So once again, we talked about the run production for the Cardinals, Jimmy, and the Cardinals scoring late. Those are daggers.
Yeah, you big 3 runs in the 8th inning. Makes it tough on the home team to come back. You only got, obviously 2 innings left, but it also takes a little bit of the air out of your sails when you keep playing back and forth baseball all day long. Tie score, and then big 3-run inning is kind of gets frustrating after a while. You have to keep trying to catch up.
(3-0). The bullpen today saw 0 in the 6th, 1-2-3 inning. Segrist in the 7th. Padres went 1-2-3 with a pair of strikeouts. The 3-0 pitch to Brett Wallace. And he walked him. Not what you want to do. Alexi Ramirez. 2 hits today, a run scored, an RBI. Also lined out to the pitcher at the time, Mike Leake back in the 4th. The Padres dealing with injuries early on this year. 6 players from their opening day roster on the DL. Alexi Amarista, Tyson Ross, a starter. Solarte could be an everyday third baseman. Corey Spangenberg, and they've got 2 lefties, Robbie Erlin and Buddy Bauman, also on the DL. 0-2. Cardinals with a 3-run lead, and also a chance for Jed Jerko at a cycle. And he is due up second for the Cardinals looking ahead to the 9th. Now pitchers say, well, I didn't realize I had a no-hitter. Hitters know that they're on the cusp of a cycle.
Yes. And everybody in that dugout does too.
Doesn't give him the chase, and it's 2-2.
And I think the pitchers know when they have a no-hitter going.
I agree. Jerko is a double away from the cycle. Broxton would love the double play here. Fly ball into left. Hazelbaker under it to make the catch. Brings in the switch hitting Jamal Weeks. Single right back in the 2nd, grounded out to short, and also struck out. Looking forward to tomorrow night seeing Tony La Russa. Is there any doubt that Tony is going for it? What they've done? Man. So they pulled back Weeks, and now it's Jose Pirela. Had a pinch hit double in game 1. First pitch, a strike.
At our home opener, I got to sit down and talk to him, Tony La Russa, a little bit about what he was trying to do and why he traded away certain guys and why he went after certain guys. And to no surprise, he said that there's a small window and the opportunity to win, and he believed that the guys that they had now and the guys they had coming up, that this window was now and a few years from now, and take advantage of it while you can. You never know what's going to happen.
Spent a ton of money on Zach Greinke, Shelby Miller. They gave up a lot to get Shelby, including the former #1 pick in the land overall, Dansby Swanson, a shortstop now in the Braves minor league system.
I asked him if he caught a little flack for that, and he looked at me and laughed. Just like he does.
Typical Tony.
Doesn't even want to answer the question.
The 2-1 pitch. 2-2. We had one of our speaker series with Tony La Russa, and I looked out in the crowd and I saw Jim Edmonds there. You guys had a special relationship. It was a little different though when you were wearing that Cubby blue. Came back to St. Louis.
That was a little different for everyone, I think.
Yeah. 2-2 pitch and a ground ball off the glove of Moss, and he'll get one. Or Willie took his time, and now the tying run comes to the plate. That can't happen, but it just did.
So we talk about this a lot, right? How fast the game is going. You take the mind, you bobble the ball as we look at this to see if he's safe or out. Definitely looks like he's safe. If your mind wanders for 1 split second, this game will sneak right past you. And that's exactly what happened right there. He bobbled the ball a little bit, kind of got caught up and not realizing where he was. And to the credit of the guy running down the line as hard as he can possibly run, he beats it out.
We're going to take a look at this, but from our replays, I can't see where this will be overturned. And I'm sure it's a little bit of an embarrassment right now for Brandon Moss. Not only did he not get the lead man, but then not hustling back to the bag at first, and that's just inexcusable.
And now he's got to watch it over and over on the big screen.
And as you pointed out, Jimmy, I mean, the key is Pirela hustling down the line
The whole time. And you can just see he just lost where he was. Obviously, it's not making any excuses, but like I said, you lose where you are in the field, and the game's going so fast, and guy hustling down the line beats it out. Really nothing you can do now.
And if you're the Cardinals, how frustrating this must be for Mike Matheny and his coaching staff. Now Broxton, just standing on the mound, begins to throw with Yadier Molina. And has to be overwhelming evidence to overturn the call on the field. By my account,
I was going to say,
that's not there.
Was there anything overwhelming about that?
No. Hear the crowd reaction here.
You can see her here. He bobbles it. Looks like he's going to throw him out. Just thinks he's going to put it in his pocket and step on first. Runner hustling all the way.
This crowd has come alive. 37,395. Bethancourt get a solo home run back in the fourth, has an RBI in the second with a sac fly and also fly to center. You hate to harp on it, but the Airs catching up here with the Cardinals. That's now 19, most in the major leagues. Air charge to Moss, his first of the season. Runners at first and second, and a 1-0 pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Situation right now. Been there plenty of times. He wants to crawl under a rock.
Yep.
And you know what? You're out there hoping that he throws a good pitch for a ground ball double play right here. You've never pulled so hard for a pitcher in your life after you make a bad play on the diamond. It's not a pretty sight.
Plaza Tire Fox Tracks. Bethancourt trying to tie it up. Two balls and 2 strikes. And a strikeout for Broxton. 94 elevated. And a big strikeout there. Just running in ever so slightly and gets the strikeout, and now it's Adam Rosales, who is 0 for 1 today. Was called out on strikes back in the 6th. Outfield is straight away. First pitch is taken for a ball in.
Looks like Jonathan Broxton realizes the situation. He's reaching back for a little extra. He gets through this inning, he's going to have a new best friend in Brandon Moss. Probably get a big old hug.
The 1-1 pitch. 1-2. Paints the outside corner.
Very intent looking in there, hoping for strike 3.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. Foul back. Rosales, a little smile. He would love to have that pitch back.
I was going to say, he let that one fly, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Runners at first and second, and it's another 1-2 pitch from Broxton. Got him on the outside corner and a strikeout. There's his new best friend.
Oh my gosh.
Woo. Jed Jerko going for a cycle when we come back. Brandon Moss ran off the field. First guy, Jimmy, you went to Jonathan Broxton.
Yes, sir.
The strikeout here, Broxton. The bullpen has been terrific. 3 innings, 5 combined strikeouts, and some relief. Woo. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Did you see the deep breath
Yes.
right there?
Here's Hazel Baker, and that's strike 1. This is Brad Hand. So the air by Moss led the Padres to put the tying run at the plate, but Broxton pitched out of the jam. Hazel Baker, Jerko, and Diaz for St. Louis. Jerko, by the way, on deck. Again, he's a double away from the cycle. 1 ball and 1 strike. It was Hand who gave up the base hit to Carpenter last night, then gave way to Villanueva. So Chevy called to the pen in his numbers this year. It slapped foul and out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Doesn't get the call, and it's 2-2. Outfield shading Hazel Baker the other way. That time he got him. He strikes out.
Tough at bat against a tough lefty.
This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Single to left in the first, tripled off the wall and right in the fourth, solo home run in the sixth. Chops this to the left side, taken there by Wallace. 2 down. Edward Jones is honored to sponsor the Cardinals Hall of Fame, the annual induction process that gives fans a voice in honoring the team's greatest players. And we will have that Hall of Fame class, the announcement on Fox Sports Midwest coming up. And that class will be enshrined in late August. Cardinals.com. Here's Aledmys Diaz. Diaz, along with Jerko, they went back-to-back with solo home runs in the sixth. Trevor Rosenthal getting loose in the Cardinals' pen, looking ahead to the bottom of the ninth.
Just looks so comfortable at the plate.
I didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody did. What a series he has had. 8 for 10. I think what really impresses a lot of people is just how well the ball is jumping off his bat. And the power and the extra base hits. Defense clearly a work in progress, but going to have that growing pains on such an important position, shortstop on a rookie. There it is again. Hard hit up the middle. Man, oh man.
Just finding the barrel. Real bat has been under control. Good swings. Hit the barrel. Good things happen when you hit the barrel, Danny. He's hitting some rockets.
They talk about exit velocity with the ball off the bat. His is some of the highest numbers of any Cardinal. And a ball like that's a great example where harder you hit, tougher it is to get to those.
Exactly.
Not too hard to figure out. Here's Holiday, who also received a few boos as fans here in San Diego remember the slide of Matt Holliday against the Padres and Trevor Hoffman back in the postseason run of 2007. Rockies got on fire at the end. Both the teams, the Rockies and the Padres, finished at 89 and 73. The winner would be the wild card. It was an 8-6 lead in the 13th inning. And Trevor Hoffman, who is as reliable as any, gave up that lead, and it was Holiday with the game-winning slide. There are many that believe he never touched home plate.
That's right.
Aledmys Diaz is now hitting .480. .480.
It's incredible. Still hasn't cracked a smile all week.
Taken low. The 3-1 pitch to Holiday. Short lead at first by Diaz. Now 3-2. Cardinals here in the first month have been trying to at least once a week give Holiday a day off. Mike was talking about it the other day where they're looking harder at the numbers in terms of innings played, games played throughout a season, and trying to give guys more days off.
Really just trying to maximize their ability to be out there at 100% more often than just running out there to run out there.
There's a base hit for Holiday into right. Diaz was off with the pitch. Held up at third. Tell you what, Aledmys Diaz could have scored on that play.
I was watching the play develop, and that's unbelievable the way he throws the Matt Kemp throws this ball in, 2 hops it into second base. Not that Diaz did anything wrong, but you could see the panic on Alexi Ramirez's face when he sees that ball being bounced in. He just keeps running hard right there. Watch Ramirez
score easily.
Yes. They had a third base coach in Anaheim, Rick Burleson. Remember Rick Burleson?
Oh yeah.
He would make you, he would not tell you to stop until he saw everybody with the ball into the infield. He would make you run hard all the way around third base in situations like that, because he said, you know, everyone takes it for granted that they're just going to throw the ball in hard, and that one time that the guy lobs the ball in, you keep running, I can just let you run all the way. And it happened probably 5 or 6 times during the course of a season in Anaheim, where guys just kept running hard and they flipped the ball into the infield and there's a free run.
Remember when Carlos Beltran was in St. Louis, he would do what Kemp did. He would just kind of lollipop it in or just flip it in on a couple of hops, and the Mets knew and had a scouting report on him, obviously, from his days in New York. And I remember Daniel Murphy from first to third on a routine base hit, hard hit to right field, and he was playing in. Wound up taking third base and eventually came around to score. Two and 1 the count on Carpenter.
If I can remember correctly, we had the bases loaded and somebody hit a ground ball up the middle with the runners running like a 3-2 count.
That's well hit. Left center. Jay on the move and makes the catch.
Nice play. And the runner scored from first base on a single up the middle.
Shouldn't happen. Rosenthal is set, rested, and ready to come in. Lawrence feeding Missouri, and the Cardinals are teaming up to hit a home run against hunger. Sunday, May 1st, fans who bring a non-perishable food item to the ballpark from 10 to 1:30 receive a voucher for 2 free Cardinals tickets to an upcoming game. Reminder that we have our Evening with Whitey Herzog coming up 2 weeks from tomorrow. Evening with Whitey Herzog. Every fan will enjoy a chance to be down on the track. Picture with the 82 trophy. Signed baseball from Whitey and a 90-minute Q&A with dinner. Get your tickets. Nearly sold out. Cardinals.com/Whitey. Cardinals.com/Whitey. Trevor Rosenthal against John Jay and a fastball at 97. What impresses you the most about Trevor when you watch him come in? You think about some of the great closers in the game today. I mean, you love velocity, but he's got other things he brings to the table too.
I just like that he keeps, nothing really seems to affect him. You know, it just keeps going out there, and talk about having a short memory for a closer, but he's not afraid to work on things. He's been trying to get better each year, working on that changeup. 1 year walked too many guys, went out and worked on, you know, better control, more under control. I mean, just, it's like I said the other day, everybody's trying to get better each and every year, and even if you throw 99 miles an hour, you're still working on something, and just gets the ball, throws strikes, works quick.
He eliminated the windup from what he would bring to the table in terms of his delivery towards the plate. And that extra movement now just works from the stretch exclusively, which helped him cut down on those walks. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Can there be a nicer guy out there?
No.
I mean, just really always smiling.
It's a frustrated fan right there. Get me out of here. The 2-2. I always used to say, when I'd watch Rosenthal, it was like he felt bad when he struck somebody out. He's coming in at 100.
I don't think so.
Sorry, didn't mean to throw 100.
Now she can't bear to look.
The 2-2 to John Jay. Hit out of play. That's one thing Jay did in St. Louis. He would give you these types of at-bats. Like she cares.
You know what that look looks like from your kids.
Oh, yeah. Hit out of play again. This will be pitch number 9 upcoming.
The pitch to play with. See if he doesn't do something different here.
Oh, nope. A straight heat.
Not messing around.
I would think this would be a very uncomfortable at bat for anybody that faces a guy like Rosenthal. The man on deck is nearly in the batter's box.
That still to this day blows me away. You see the changeup right there, maybe? Tough to tell from up here.
Guy throwing an 89-mile-an-hour changeup.
Where's Hungo when you need him?
3-2 pitch. Good at bat by Jay. Strokes it to right. Hard hit, but there is Stephen Piscotty. In steps Will Myers. Trevor this season with 4 saves. He's had 6 innings of work, now 6 1/3. Has allowed just 3 hits. And opponents hitting 136. It's another day in which this bullpen could be part of the story of a win. O had the 6th, Segras the 7th, Broxton the 8th, and now Rosenthal here in the 9th.
Pretty good pitch right there, wasn't it?
This bullpen of the Cardinals has yet to allow a base hit in this game.
Trevor is supplying some foul balls for the fans.
Yep. Guys can't catch up.
No.
1 ball, 1 strike on Myers. He extended his hit streak to 9 games with a single back in the 3rd to center field. Wow. That's just overpowering right there.
And I have to say, if he can throw that pitch again, Will Myers is going to have a hard time making contact. That upright stance. Got an area inside there you can get underneath his hands. Going back away.
2-2. Strokes it to right. Nice piece of hitting. Yeah, Trevor will supply the power. There's no doubt about that. Budweiser player of the game is Randall Grichuk, 3 for 5 with a double and 3 RBIs. Paul Goldschmidt with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 9th to tie it up for the Diamondbacks with the Pirates. His 2nd home run of the game. Got off to a very slow start, but now he's starting to heat it up just in time for the Cardinals to come into town tomorrow. Matt Kemp a double back in the 3rd. He's 1 for 4.
Talking about Paul Goldschmidt. Tony La Russa is a big fan.
Oh yeah.
Big fan.
Just wonder if they were a little better, played in a different market, if he's the MVP. Or at least gets more consideration for it.
For sure.
The pitch at 99 from Rosenthal. No balls and 2 strikes with 1 out and a runner at first base.
Try to get back underneath their hands right here.
And where is that pitch?
It's got to be a strike right there, I would think. Missed his location a little bit, but wow.
Saw a little motion from Rosenthal after the base hit by Myers. He was not happy and then not happy with that call. You don't see that very often from him. And a base hit into right field. And the tying run will come to the plate.
Fastball down and away, about 97, 98. Being a veteran hitter right there, Kemp does exactly what you're supposed to do. Let him supply the power. Just try to hit the ball in the barrel. See what happens. If you try to do anything special right there, there's no chance you catch up with it.
Tying run at the plate. Derek Norris, the pinch hitter. Led all catchers a year ago with 49 extra base hits. Cardinals turned a double play back in the 5th. They'd love one here to end this game.
Get Yachty in the hand. Let's see where that hit him.
Sometimes you see guys get handcuffed a little bit. You think about his thumb.
That's what I'm thinking right there. Like taking 99 off the thumb, huh?
Oof. Here's the 0-1. Now 0-2. You're trying to finish the game off, but as the pitch count goes up too, not to get too far ahead, you wonder about your closer being able to bounce back. This will be pitch number 23. Oh, Molina almost got Myers.
I believe it was a few years ago when Yachty picked off someone at first base to end the game here in San Diego.
It was. That's right. That was here.
Might have been Brian Giles.
Good memory. That's right.
Somebody came in. I think it was. I don't know if it was Albert or whoever was playing first base. Snuck in behind, trying to do that same thing right here. Almost got him. Oh, if he makes that throw on the money, he's out.
Yep.
Great heads-up play by both Carp and Molina to catch him sleeping.
Here's a 1-2. And the other thing, the confidence and the guts in this situation to make that throw. Most guys just put it in their back pocket.
I'm having to say the time that he threw behind the runner at first to end the game, there was a tying or winning run on base then too.
One ball and 2 strikes on Derek Norris. Did you know when you were playing first base, did you have a signal with Yachty with pickoffs, or was it more of a feel thing?
It's a little bit of both. That's something that they work on a little bit in spring training. Yachty likes to be aggressive. He wants you to pay attention to guys that aren't paying attention, and he wants to know little pickoff signs or little, get somebody's attention right there. But you better be heads up too, because if he thinks he's got a shot, he's throwing it down there, and your job is to be there. Talking with a couple of the young first basemen and even some of the guys in base running, when give you a heads up that he's going to throw down there is when the ball gets on that side of the base. You better be ready to get to the bag.
Also the confidence to throw one in the dirt. That saves a run. It also keeps the double play in order.
See him put him away right here. Keep this pitch count from getting out of control.
This will be pitch number 27 here. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Three-two pitch. Got him on the outside corner. 2 outs.
Pretty good pitch, but the Fox track saying it's not a strike. Big Mac just popped his head up. Not happy.
And it comes down to Brett Wallace. Wallace was hit by a pitch and walked today, and he looks at strike 1. On the year, he is 1 for 18. Here's the 0-1. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's a 1-1. Now 1-2, and the Padres down to their final strike.
Trying to elevate a fastball right here. Oof. A little timeout on the field here, my friend. I like when you're sitting up here in the booth and you can see everything that's going on, and yet when they call timeout, you look around, you can't see any problems.
Everybody just standing around.
Everyone's just looking around.
See what they want to do here on 1-2 with Brett Wallace. Is this the final pitch of the game? Nope. Bounced in the dirt. Just wonder how comfortable Rosenthal is. He's been shaking a little bit.
There's a lot of pitches out there for him right now. A little bit of stress.
This will be pitch number 34. Change up again. And a ground ball hit sharply to second base, and this will do it. The Cardinals take 2 of 3 here in San Diego. The final of 8-5. Hard-fought win for the Cardinals, and again they strike late.
Big day for the offense again. Keep moving. I really don't like to see Rosie have to stretch out that much, but a big win here in the